Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk about one of the more well-known arguments for the existence of God, the cosmological argument. The cosmological argument probably gets its first form in the philosopher Aristotle, and there it's referred to as the prime mover argument. The argument that Aristotle makes is that things in the world are in motion. In order for something to be in motion, there must be something else that sets it in motion. That thing must also be in motion in order to pass its motion on to something else. So something must have set it in motion. The idea is that you can't take this back as an infinite regress. You can't keep going back and back and back forever. At some point, someone must have started it. So one thing I compare this to is when I was a kid, there was an advertisement on TV always for a game called Domino Rally. We never bought it, unfortunately. I always bothered my parents for it. But the idea was you get this set of dominoes and then all these other like little contraptions that would come with it. And in the advertisement, they always had some kid that like had the dominoes going up the stairs and over the kitchen table and stuff. And then you would just push over the first domino, and then it would knock over the next one and the next one, and then the whole thing would eventually fall over, and all this cool stuff would happen, right? That's basically the argument of the cosmological argument. In order for things to be in motion in the world, there must have been someone to push over that first domino, something to start everything, and that thing is God. Now, what makes this thing unique and different from everything else in the world is that God doesn't have to be moved by anything. God starts the motion itself. So God is, for Aristotle, what we would call a prime mover or an uncaused cause. God doesn't have to be caused by anything outside of God. God acts as a cause for itself and therefore a cause for the rest of the world. Now, St. Thomas Aquinas, a couple thousand years later, will use this argument from Aristotle, but he will also present it in a slightly different form. Thomas Aquinas will present this in terms of cause and effect. So while Aristotle talks about motion, Aquinas says every effect in the world must have a cause. That cause must be caused by something else. That cause must be caused by something else. And once again, since we can't have an infinite regression, since we can't keep going back forever, there must be a very first cause, and that cause is God. So whether God is the prime mover or the first cause, the idea is there's something that has to get everything started. There's something that in essence has to create the world, and that thing would be God. Now notice this argument doesn't say anything necessarily about whether that God is good or what other kind of powers this God has. Other arguments for God's existence will be used to try to establish that. But what the cosmological argument does prove is that there is, if it works, is that there is some God or something that gets everything started, a prime mover or a first cause. And whatever that prime mover or first cause is the creator of the world, and we call it God.